Welcome to the Monday, January 30th, 2012 edition of the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm Aaron Dykes. Now coming up, Alex Jones has an extended interview with Nomi Prinz. That's the financial expert from Wall Street and whistleblower, and they're going to get into all aspects of the financial crisis. I've also got an in-depth report on Bill Gates' ties to the media and their collusion coming up. But first, other news. Obama met with George H.W. Bush and son Jeb Bush at the White House Friday. Unbeknownst to the press, President Obama met Friday evening with the former president and his son, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, in the Oval Office. Jeb, of course, the one they tell us will be the third Bush president in that string of dynasties. But really what we're looking at here is both sides of what we were told was the World Wrestling Federation, the left and the right, meeting together. They're basically the same on most issues. They're both reportedly CIA families and a whole lot more. So there you have it, really. And Jeb Bush refused to endorse any Republicans, and they're going to let them fight it out. Kind of interesting as well. Meanwhile, Ron Paul wins the straw poll in Tennessee, but it didn't make the news. Go figure. Big surprise. And they've got people complaining in the media that they showed up to vote, but their vote was only for the straw poll, and that was just supposed to be an audience grabber. Meanwhile, the actual group who conducted it, the Tennessee Republican Assembly, had a separate vote for who to endorse, and that was Rick Santorum, who garnered all the press coverage and a whole lot more. And that's just what you get all through this race, all through the 2008 race. A media conspiracy against Ron Paul. How many times does it has to be proved? And some weirdo, Rick Santorum, is the one they give coverage to. Doesn't make any sense. The media is well aware there's a huge groundswell of support, grassroots supporters for Ron Paul, and yet that somehow has no value. No matter how many straw polls he wins, no matter what place he comes in these votes. Meanwhile, former Federal Reserve boss Herman Cain is putting his weight behind Newt Gingrich, trying to draw in Tea Party supporters to go for the Gingrich. I guess a couple, one womanizer endorses another. One had to drop out of the race for his scandal. Somehow, when Gingrich's ex-wife goes on and makes all manner of accusations, though, it only bolsters him in South Carolina. Does that make any sense to you? I don't know. But the Republican hijacked Tea Party, insert trademark here, is still referred to as libertarian, even though it shills for a former Federal Reserve boss and now a globalist stooge named Newt Gingrich. In late 2010, as establishment insiders continued their transformative voodoo on the movement, 87% of Tea Party organizers said they were dissatisfied with mainstream Republican Party leaders like Gingrich, who's pledged fealty to the neocon wing of the party while supporting carbon taxes and much of the rest of the globalist agenda. Yet they're going to get the anti-government Tea Partiers to rally around just such a candidate. Yet a third aircraft is coming to the Iran area. U.S. Navy is deploying a third aircraft carrier to the Persian Gulf and really just continuing to saber for war. They're beating the drums of war, as Henry Kissinger said. And if you can't hear it, I agree, you're deaf, because their propaganda on this thing is just over the top. Zero Hedge has the report of how yet another aircraft carrier may provocateur us into the war with Iran that we all know could be coming and we hope isn't. There's an interesting clip speculating on the USS Enterprise because it's been decommissioned, it's on its last run, it's out in the area, and could it be used for a false flag? You know, when the attack on Pearl Harbor happened, all the new ships were removed from the area, and FDR and his advisors, all those skull and bones people skulking around, they put in the old carrier and other old vehicles to take the hit. And there's the whole history with the USS Liberty being attacked, Israel's role in provocateuring that, trying to blame it on Egypt, stoke a wider war there. You've got the whole deception with the Gulf of Tonkin and a whole lot more. Let's play that clip now.
With the collapse of the oil embargo to force Iran into a confrontation over the Straits of Hormuz, the US and Israel are looking for another way to get the long-sought war with Iran started, and more to the point, need to make it look like Iran is starting hostilities in order to make it politically and more difficult for Russia and China to support Iran. Now, recall that Israel has a past history of attacking US warships and framing others to trick the US into attacks on Israel's enemies, with the Israeli attack on the USS Liberty, initially blamed on Egypt, as the most well-known example. So here we have the USS Enterprise, the oldest carrier in the fleet, on her last legs, scheduled to be decommissioned next year. Her name is well known in part because of the Star Trek TV series. Decommissioning a nuclear aircraft carrier is a very expensive process.
And that's a great clip speculating on what type of false flag they might use to start another war. We know they are looking at those options because we have the Brookings Institute policy paper, Which Path to Persia, where they discuss everything from another Velvet Revolution to a staged false flag attack to sanctions to airstrikes and a whole lot more. So that really is the real question. How will they start the war with Iran and when? Meanwhile, New Jersey Assembly aims to ban all handgun ammo and some rifle ammo. That's a story I wrote over the weekend after Alex tipped me off to AMOLAND's reports and the NRA's reports. The language seemingly targets the already prohibited armor-piercing ammunition, but would encompass any ammo that is deemed to, quote, pose a threat to the safety and well-being of law enforcement. AMOLAND is reporting that the common hunting, target, and self-defense ammunition would be subject to ban, along with BBs, air gun pellets, and non-metallic ammunition like plastic airsoft pellets. And it is an end run around the Constitution. New Jersey is de facto in the metro area of New York City, and you've got those big city areas, New York, Chicago, and others, who are in essence a Constitution-free zone by default because of their gun bans in that area. You've got a prominent New Jersey mayor for Newark, that's Cory Booker, and he's been offering the rewards for illegal guns, $1,000 cash rewards. He's part of the nationwide Mayors Against Gun Coalition, Mayors Against Illegal Guns Coalition, I believe it's called. Yeah, and you've got all kinds of other things going on to try to demonize guns and restrict gun-related, firearm-related things when they cannot get an all-out gun ban. There's even renewed support as Gabrielle Giffords is stepping down a year or so after her attempted assassination to now pass those bans that Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy wanted on high-caliber ammunition clips. You've got the Brady Center meeting with President Obama where he vowed to sneak attack the Second Amendment, go after it, quote, under the radar. Was that involved with the whole Fast and Furious thing? We don't know, but just crazy attempts to outlaw ammunition there in New Jersey. And you see that back in 2008, a sister committee in New Jersey, the Judiciary Committee, also tried to pass a sweeping gun legislation ban. It came out of committee. I don't believe it's passed into law. Now, also at the federal level, you've got drive-by scanning. Officials expand use and dose of radiation for security screening. U.S. law enforcement agencies are exposing people to radiation in more settings and in increasing doses to screen for explosive weapons and drugs. In addition to the controversial airport scanners now deployed for routine screening, various X-ray devices have proliferated at the border, in prisons, and on the streets of New York. Now, we've reported on all this, but they're saying this is now even pushing the boundaries of acceptable X-raying because of all the covert X-raying going on. Why are they doing it? We know it's dangerous. They've done the studies, and that is exactly why Senator Susan Collins, who's on the Homeland Security Committee, is introducing a bill that would require a new health study of the X-ray body scanners. Now, I don't know if that's political tooling around because they promise studies and then refuse to do them and then, not really fulfill their obligations on studying them. And it's a real danger to the workers. And they've had a study as old as 1998 showing that the kind of radiating machines they use at airports could be causing up to 100 deaths per year. You've got that airport workers union in Boston where a lot of people came down with cancer. And of course it's going to be affecting people, but still they insist it's there for our safety. The TSA has never caught one terrorist. They may have stood down while various other government agencies helped get patsies and other false flag elements onto the planes, but they never stopped anyone. But it just keeps expanding, doesn't it? Now, I wanted to get into the whole Bill Gates report, but that's part of the larger eugenics paradigm. I've studied it in depth. I did another article over the weekend from The Onion, the humor paper, that's so funny you'll laugh. you'll cry, and now you'll die, because they say in this satirical article that at least 2 billion people must die to save the planet. And, that, of course, mirrors directly the talking points of the top eugenicists and the top globalists. Just some of the quotes from there, saying there's no way around it at this point. A coalition of scientists announced Thursday that 1/3 of the world population must die to prevent wide-scale depletion of the planet's resources, and humankind needs to figure out immediately how it wants to go about killing off more than 2 billion members of the species. That's in the Onion article. Scientists look, 1/3 of the human race has to die for civilization to be sustainable. So how do we want to do it? And it's all supposed to be funny and desensitize you to the real agendas going on that you may or may not have heard about in the alternative press. And, you can see it in the article, too, if you know what you're looking for. They say in one part that there's no avoiding the reality that half the world's progeny will have to be sterilized. That's the humor from the Onion article. That parallels stuff like Dr. Eric Pianka's speech, where he said, according to the transcript, in 2006, we need to sterilize everybody on the earth, the audience reportedly laughed, and make the antidote freely available to anyone who's willing to work for it. He even talks about estrogen, plastic estrogen mimickers. They also talk about in the Onion article poisoning the world's water supply. That thing John P. Holdren, the White House science advisor, wrote about in the 70s with the other eugenicist Paul Ehrlich, where they talked about putting steroids in the water. There's also the Planned Parenthood secret memo where the vice president said, among other means to bring down the fertility, they should put a sterilant in the drinking water. And there's just so much more going on, and they make it trendy and funny seeming that, quote, a ton of Africans have to die, and that, quote, all of India will have to be wiped out. Well, it's not funny. It's about as funny as Nazis shooting Jews at the edge of the pit. Why don't the Onion do jokes on that? It really just is an overall sidetrack thing from the real stuff going on. And you see that with the whole deal with Bill Gates. Bill Gates, of course, you've seen him in the clips saying that we need to bring down the population and vaccines are going to help us do it. In fact, I think we have that clip now.
So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra. But let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
And you notice the audience laughing there, too, how funny it is to use vaccines to lower the population, all this carbon tax nonsense about global warming. Now, Bill Gates is not just the genius inventor who came up with Microsoft or the personal computer. His father worked with Planned Parenthood since the 50s. They're a very wealthy family, multi-generational dynasty. They're part of the eugenics overall scheme, as are many of the computer companies. Both the Hewlett and Packard component of Hewlett-Packard both have foundations that donate heavily to eugenics. The Rockefeller Foundation, obviously heavily involved. And here you see a nexus of Bill Gates and Rockefeller involved with the Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. They're pushing that worldwide.